Hello, this is Edward James Tagg, and today I'm going to be discussing how to restore vintage sewing machine decals. Now, what's a decal? A decal is essentially there's pretty patterns and writing on sewing machines. This is a domestic, Cleveland, Ohio, USA. I'm not sure how old it is. It does have a serial number on the back there, 6X301. There are some situations where you're also working on a traditional Singer and you'll see the Singer word there, and I've been restoring that, and I'll talk about that later. So this is kind of a before photograph, and this is an after photograph. This is a new home. Can I get the light on it really well? And there's a lovely scene of a grandmother with her daughter supposedly and her grandchild and a dog just there. And so I've done some work on this with Winsor & Newton oils, so if you look really close you can see a little bit of green in here and up the top, and I've done some work with Winsor & Newton oil paints on that, and then I've covered it with Zinsser clear blonde shellac. You want blonde because if you put orange flavoured shellac on your vintage sewing machine, it would cover those decals. And then I finish off with Mother's Carnauba wax. But we're going to talk more about that later. I'm actually going to get into the process now. So if you're at this stage and you've got to do some restoration on your sewing machine decals, the kind of products you want to go for mostly would be, I recommend Gojo original formula non-pumice hand cleaner. It won't say non-pumice, but it has to have no pumice because the granules, they're going to grind away at your decals and you don't want that. But Gojo original formula non-pumice. You can't buy this in New Zealand. I got a lovely friend send me this from a store in Phoenix, Arizona, so it's the only one I've got. And then Singer sewing machine oil. That's pretty much the most reliable thing that won't harm decals. Now, having said that, I even had like a Winsor & Newton fine sable brush, and even if you just stroked it really gently with a bit of sewing machine oil before my very eyes, I could see the decals silvering. Now, silvering basically means that when the color is gone, there is a underlayer and there's a top layer, and the top layer comes off and the underlayer is just silver, and you can see it over here, some of that silvering wear and tear happening that you don't want. And sometimes even if you rub it with even a sable brush, it can even come off. So I'll do a little bit of that now, what happens when you apply sewing machine oil to I'm not going to go right on the decals. I recommend that you just apply a couple of drops on the area that you want to work with, and then you get a cotton bud and you do some polishing. So this is just a regular cotton bud for makeup, and you put it on here and you just start working that. And I tend to work only in the black areas and I stay away from the decals, so I'm sweeping up here, sweeping across here, and I don't touch the decal because every time you work on the decals you're going to create wear and tear. So if you just went over here and just polished like crazy, you're going to get some wear and tear. So I recommend that you just stay on the black area and avoid decals. Like even under here there's the words made in USA, and I'd love to keep those words. If I started rubbing in that area, that word, that made in USA, that would actually be gone. If I rubbed that really heavily, that would go. Now, what about this process here? I'm going to kneel on my hands and knees. I want you to see this. Now, what's this here? What is it? Why is it crackling, or why does it look like that? I'll show you a photograph on the top. So here it is. It's really obvious. So what's this? What's that? It just looks really dirty. Now I'm going to get a knife, which is not the ideal tool, but I'm going to show you what happens, that you can sometimes kind of even flick it off, but you don't really want to do that. But let's see what happens. Here's my camera. You don't want to do that really. I'm just doing it as an experiment to show that it does. Yeah, you can see it here. Literally just... I'll even stop there, but you can see what I've created there. There's just a little bit of a flick. That's come off. You can even get it off with your fingernail. Yeah, you can. You can see it comes off with my fingernail, see there? So that's old shellac coming off with my fingernail. When you rub it, it comes off. It's like dust. See, there's like a dust. It's like a powder. So you can remove it, but you don't. It's okay here because that's black, right? But if you did it here, all that design would come off, and you'd be left with nothing. So that's what happens if I just liberally apply some sewing machine oil across here, and just see what happens. And I'm just going to sweep that around with a light sable brush, like that, and just really gently on the decal area, because if I do any rubbing, all that's going to come off. Now, what you must understand is that when you re-shellac that, that's what it's going to look like. It's going to look like that lovely glazed sewing machine effect. So I'm not going to do any more work on that. I promise you right here and now, I am not going to touch that. I'm not even going to sweep it with this brush. I'm just going to, well, you have to remove the oil in order to paint shellac on it, but to do that you do need to get a degreaser, and you just sort of, you'd give it a wash, a gentle wash. But in the areas up here where you've got no decals, like say back here, and there's this really old shellac, you can mechanically work that. You can polish that with your finger like that. You can polish it and it'll come off. But even having said that, like, you know, that's what it's going to look like if you re-shellac it. So even that's not that offensive. Like, you think back here, oh my god, that's just so offensive looking, I don't want that on my sewing machine. But you're not going to get that. You're going to get that black look where I put the oil. That's what shellac's going to make it look like. That's why this one here looks as, this new home looks as lovely and black like that. So that doesn't really matter. It's not really that offensive. You can have a go at it and polish it like this if you want to. You can do that, but you're not going to get any problems. So there's not even that much dirt. I mean, see, the dirt comes off here and you can see it, but it's not that offensive, because when you put shellac on it, I mean, sure, you do want to get a modicum of dirt off, but you don't want to rub it. And you can use Gojo hand cleaner carefully, but any mechanical process of any sort, it doesn't matter if you're using Gojo or if you're using kerosene, or I'm just having to open this thing, or if sorry, I'm just going to get my camera down here. It doesn't matter. Even if you use the very best product you can muster, if you mechanically rub it and really get in there, all that your decals are going to come off. They're guaranteed they're going to come off. So if you see people, and people get really uptight about this, they get online and they have all these discussions, you know, like, I can't find anything that will stop my decals silvering, and I found nothing. Gojo doesn't work, sewing machine oil doesn't work, nothing works. Well, it's true. You know, if you mechanically rub a decal, it's gonna come off. Like, there's the dirt from using Gojo. That's the dirt. But back here, at the back there's some more pretty decals, and I don't want to, if I rub that across there like that aggressively, that's going to come off. I can just gently stroke it. Sometimes even sewing machine oil mixed with Gojo, just as I'm just wiping, just a gentle wipe, and it's just, I wipe it over once, you wipe it over twice, and it's going to come off. And I kid you not, I've used a Winsor & Newton or whatever sable, like finest sable brush, and I've stroked it and I've gone like that, and it's silvered right in front of my eyes. It just came off. I learnt that on a New Home D machine long ago, and I don't do that now. So in terms of cleaning, that's the level you can get to. You can get this machine to that level where you've got decals looking like that, and the black part where you've got some old shellac looking like that. Now having said that, you could use like a Scotch-Brite pad like this, and if you really wanted to hammer in there and rub it like that, you'd be taking stuff off, you'd be taking old stuff off, and you could kind of do that without being too offensive in the areas that had no decals, and you'd be okay. You know, you'd be alright. You'd be okay doing that, and you're doing no damage to the decals because you're staying away from them. You're just not going there, you know, just not going there. So you could do that. Your Scotch-Brite pad, or even some 000 steel wool. You could get some steel wool in there if you wanted to. But for me, I'm kind of happy getting to the stage where I'm just using Singer sewing machine oil like this, only taking a brush, a light brush or a pass with a cotton bud like this, going over the sewing machine oil and going over those decals with just one feather stroke. You do any more than that and they're going to silver, and that pretty design is going to literally come off in front of your eyes. There were people that actually joked about this, and they said, well, we saw this guy and he was on this YouTube and he says, oh, I just touched it and it just came off before my very eyes, and he didn't take it seriously, and people were laughing and joking about this video, and they took it very serious. And some people in the sewing machine community get a bit precious, but I mean, you know, if you're restoring an old antique, you know, like, and sometimes there's not too many of these left on the planet, they can get quite rare. You want to do the best you can, right? So that's kind of the level I would take it to. You'd stroke those decals really gently, and then if you don't like that, those huge patches of old shellac that goes orange, you can work it, you know, with your fingernail, or you know, with a pumice stone, or whatever you're going to use, as long as you stay away from those decals, and then you're going to get it from this level. See, it's even improving now. If you look at that general improvement from there, that's getting close to this one here, which I worked on earlier. That's just in immaculate condition, and I did a tiny bit of brushwork in here, tiny bit of brushwork in here. I'm not going to talk about the rust, do evapor rust and car polish and stuff, but that's what you want to do with your decals. Just a minimal approach. Gojo, non-pumice hand cleaner, sewing machine oil, and you can actually use kerosene. Kerosene's blue in colour, but this is in an oil bottle, excuse me. So yeah, I'll discuss the other aspects. This is a Singer, what is it called, in 96, sorry for getting the camera down here, 96KSV7, stands for special variant or special version, and I think they were used in the military for various reasons, for heavy duty or for whatever use. But basically what I've got here is the someone's painted this with you know, grey paint, and I just wanted to get it down, get that grey paint away, and get that grey paint away, and try and get that Singer word back again, which is what I'm doing here. So I'm doing a bit of work on this, getting that Singer word back again, and I've got a little knife here. I know you might be a bit scared and say, oh, Edward's using a knife on a sewing machine, well, what's he doing? Oh my god. But I did work with museum conservators in London, and I was a wood carver, but I saw lots of museum conservators using mechanical means, and what I'm doing right now is I'm just tickling. I'm not even touching the gold decals, I'm actually just pulling away that layer of paint. See, I'm just pulling it away with the knife. I don't even have to touch the gold decals underneath. I'm just pulling away the incorrect grey paint that I don't agree with, so I can bring it to its former glory. It's never going to be to its former glory. You're going to take it to a level of what would have been when it was, you know, being in use, workable. So you can even remove paint and reveal the old Singer gold decals underneath and still achieve success. I didn't think this was even going to be possible. I mean, I really didn't, But there you go, there's the Singer word for all to see, with a bit of gojo on there, or sewing machine oil or kerosene, and with a cotton bud, let's see, and then just a light wiping and polishing, and I've got this Singer word revealed for the first time in probably about 50 years, or however long this has been painted grey. So there you go, there's the Singer decals coming up under grey paint, which I thought was going to be impossible. Now if I can get some of that away, and you know, the pins, I'll remove that and I'll get it back down to the base black paint, and have revealed the decals. That's going to be good to go, and that's going to be a successful restoration. So that's how you work with decals. Now I'm going to talk about the philosophy of what you work on and what you don't right now, so what you can expect, what's a bad restoration and what's a good restoration. So I'm just gonna this domestic has a lot of promise, because all the decals are actually there. I mean, there's nothing's removed. Every single decal is there. They're just in really bad condition, and some of them have silvered, like the worst part is right here. But still, even on the corners here where you normally get a lot